The mistake happened in a single breath. The kind that slips out before the mind has time to catch it. 1 second, the air outside the roadside diner was thick with engine smoke and late summer heat. The next second, everything went silent except for the slow, dangerous hum of idling motorcycles. He stood there, shoulders tense, eyes steady, and said the words that sealed his fate in that moment. "You made a mistake." The biker's girlfriend laughed at first, sharp and careless, until her eyes dropped to his forearm. That was when the laughter shattered. Seconds later, she was crying so hard she had to grab the edge of the diner wall to stay upright, and no one there understood how a tattoo could do that to a person. Before the story pulls you deeper, take a moment right now. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that people are more than their worst moments, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. These small actions help stories like this reach hearts that may need them the most. His name was Elias Turner, and until that night, his life had been defined by invisibility. He worked the late shift at a highway repair shop a few miles down the road, fixing what other people broke and driving home when the sun was already threatening to rise again. His clothes were always stained with grease, his hands permanently marked by years of hard labor, and his silence was mistaken for weakness more times than he could count. He had learned not to react when people underestimated him. Silence had become his armor, a way to survive without constantly reopening old wounds. But that night, silence failed him. The diner was crowded because it always was when the motorcycle club came through town. Engines lined the parking lot like metal beasts resting after a hunt, chrome reflecting the flicker of neon lights. Elias had stopped only because his truck was running hot again, and the mechanics. Instinct in him told him to let it cool before pushing it home. Inside, the smell of burnt coffee and fried food clung to the air, but he never made it through the door. He felt it first, the pressure of being watched, the slow appraisal that turned men into prey. The biker, tall and broad, covered in ink and leather, blocked the entrance with casual ownership. Elias tried to step aside, tried to wait, but impatience and exhaustion mixed into something dangerous. The shove was small, almost accidental, but the reaction was immediate. The biker moved closer, his presence swallowing the space between them, while laughter rippled from the group behind him. Elias felt the familiar tightening in his chest, the old memory of being cornered, of being powerless. His body remembered things his mind tried to forget. That was when he spoke, quietly but clearly, and told the biker he had made a mistake. It wasn't bravado, it wasn't a threat. It was a statement born from experience, the kind that comes from someone who has seen what mistakes can cost. The girlfriend stood just behind the biker, arms crossed, her smile sharp with amusement. She leaned in, curious, her eyes scanning Elias like he was nothing more than entertainment. And then she saw it. The sleeve of his jacket had ridden up slightly, revealing the tattoo etched into his skin. It wasn't flashy. No skulls, no flames, just a simple design faded with time, a small pair of wings cradling a name and a date. The moment her eyes locked onto it, her face drained of color. Her breath hitched, and something inside her broke open. That tattoo was the reason Elias survived his worst years. It was the only thing he had allowed himself to keep when everything else was stripped away. Years earlier, before grease-stained nights and lonely highways, Elias had been a young man with family, and a future that felt solid. His younger sister, Mara, had been everything bright in his life. She had laughed loudly, trusted easily, and believed people were mostly good. When she fell in love with the wrong man, Elias tried to protect her. He warned her, begged her, even threatened to step in, but she believed love could fix anything. The night she died in a motorcycle accident, Elias learned how wrong that belief could be. The crash had been ruled an accident. Speed, alcohol, poor judgment. The man riding the bike survived with barely a scratch. Mara didn't. Elias remembered the hospital lights, the sterile smell, the way the doctor's mouth moved while the world fell apart. He remembered the funeral, the closed casket, the sound of engines roaring past the cemetery like a cruel echo. After that, his life collapsed inward. He walked away from plans, from people, from himself. The tattoo came later, inked into his skin during a moment of grief so heavy he needed pain to feel grounded. The wings were not about angels. They were about release. About letting go without forgetting. Standing in that parking lot, Elias didn't know the biker's girlfriend had a sister too. He didn't know she had been there the night Mara died. Standing on the sidewalk screaming for help as headlights blurred into sirens. She had carried that guilt like a stone in her chest for years, telling herself it wasn't her fault, that accidents just happen. But seeing that tattoo cracked open a truth she had buried. The name on Elias's arm was Mara. The date was burned into her memory forever. The biker noticed her reaction and turned, confused, irritation flashing across his face. Elias stayed still. He didn't raise his hands. He didn't back away. He simply stood there, the weight of the past pressing against his bones. For the first time in years, he felt seen, not as a threat or a joke, but as someone carrying a story that mattered. The girlfriend's tears fell fast and uncontrolled, her tough exterior dissolving into raw grief. She knew. She knew exactly what that tattoo meant, and she knew that in this moment, she was standing in front of the brother of the girl who never made it home. The tension in the air shifted, subtle but undeniable. The laughter stopped. Conversations faded into awkward silence. The biker's posture changed, aggression giving way to uncertainty. Elias felt his hands shake, not with fear, but with something dangerously close to relief. He had carried his anger like a loaded weapon for so long, convinced that confronting people connected to Mara's world would only end in violence or regret. Instead, here was sorrow meeting sorrow, pain recognizing pain. Elias thought about walking away. He thought about getting back into his truck and driving until the road ran out. But something held him there. Maybe it was the girlfriend's tears, or maybe it was the quiet understanding that this moment, however painful, was necessary. He realized he wasn't angry at these people anymore. He was angry at the past, at fate, at the randomness of loss. And anger, he had learned the hard way, only corrodes the person who holds it. The biker eventually stepped aside, clearing the path to the diner without a word. The girlfriend wiped her face, her eyes lingering on the tattoo one last time, filled with apology she couldn't bring herself to voice. Elias nodded once, a small acknowledgement that said more than words ever could. He walked inside, the bell above the door ringing softly, and ordered a cup of coffee he didn't really want. But he stayed. He sat there, hands wrapped around the chipped mug, and for the first time in years, he let himself feel something other than numbness. Outside, the engines eventually roared back to life. The motorcycles pulled away, their sound fading into the distance. Elias watched through the window, expecting the familiar rush of bitterness. Instead, he felt lighter, not healed, not whole, but lighter. He understood then that forgiveness doesn't always come with apologies or explanations. Sometimes it comes quietly, in unexpected places, carried by strangers, who are just as broken as you are. Life didn't change overnight. Elias still worked long hours, still drove an old truck that overheated too easily, still woke up some mornings with grief sitting heavy on his chest. But something inside him had shifted. He started talking more, letting people in a little at a time. He volunteered at a local youth garage, teaching kids how to fix engines and, without realizing it at first, teaching himself how to connect again. The tattoo on his arm no longer felt like a wound. It felt like a bridge between who he was and who he was becoming. Years later, he would sometimes see motorcycles pass by and feel a flicker of that old pain. But it no longer controlled him. He had learned that mistakes ripple outward in ways we can't always predict, touching lives long after the moment has passed. And he had learned that confronting those ripples, facing them with honesty instead of hatred, can change everything. If this story has reached something deep inside you, if it reminded you of loss, forgiveness, or the power of unexpected moments, please take a second now to like the video, share it, and subscribe. Your support helps keep these stories alive and reaching people who may be carrying their own silent grief. Before the ending, here's a special request. Please comment below and share what this story made you feel, or who it made you think of. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read tonight. Elias never saw the biker or his girlfriend again. He didn't need to. That single encounter had already given him something he thought was gone forever, peace without forgetting. He continued to wear the tattoo proudly, not as a symbol of anger or loss, but as proof that love leaves marks that time cannot erase. And in a world so quick to judge and so slow to understand, he carried with him the quiet knowledge that even the deepest mistakes can lead to moments of grace, if we are brave enough to face them.